Alright, good morning. This is Friday the 11th of September. In today's video I want to look back at the two pairs we've been watching a lot this week, and then mention one other one to you. Aussie Japanese yen. I've been watching as it has moved up and has started to hit some resistance now. You can see on the 4-hour Coppock Curve that had crossed down earlier, as mentioned. It looked like it was trying to move back up, if you can see on the far right corner. But you can see our 4-hour bearish candle starting to move down here. Another way to analyze these charts, of course, is using what I call the line strategy or box strategy, and that's just simply placing a 4-hour Heikin-Ashi fractal line above the highest candle, which is here, and then looking at the daily candle. So far the 4-hour is still above the daily candle, so far that bullish move up, which I mentioned, also reflected in the CCI 11, showing bullish divergence here. So that's still up, even though we're starting to see a little bit of a pullback. We are just a hair below the 23% fib line here, so we are starting to see more retracement, and that will accelerate if this 4-hour Coppock Curve crosses below the 0 line back down in here on the 4-hour chart. Looking at the US dollar, Canadian dollar, that uptrend continues despite all the volatility and chop that I mentioned over here on the daily chart for a couple of weeks now. So far we are still finding support down in here on that ascending trend line as that pair moves up. This also is not quite out of the woods yet, as our daily Heikin-Ashi fractal line, which is kind of muddied by the chop over here on the left panel. Our 4-hour candle is not quite above that line yet, but you can see how the Coppock Curve on this one is trying to make a turn up over here above the 0 line. So I still feel pretty confident that this pair is going to be moving up. We'll see what happens this morning. One other pair that I would mention to you is the Canadian dollar versus the Japanese yen. This kind of puts two different pairs together that two different currencies together that we're looking at, since we're looking at the US dollar Canada, and then we're also looking at the Aussie Japanese yen. So this kind of puts the Canadian versus the Japanese yen together, and overall very soft. Of course, you probably cannot, well, you cannot see it on the map right now, but the 3-day, see if I can pull this in real quick for you. The 3-day trend is obviously very bearish over here on the left panel. It's not considered overbought at this point, but it is in a 3-day strong downtrend there. One of the other things I use is what I call divergence, and in this case it's price versus Coppock Curve divergence. And one of the things I look at is I see the Coppock Curve, or rate of change, that was here on the daily chart. We can see where price kind of matches that huge movement down. And then we have this big move up on the Coppock Curve here, which nearly retraces all of that on the Coppock Curve side of things, but yet price has only retraced probably 38% or so of that move. See if I can grab a quick drawing tool here, and I'll show you exactly where the lines are. But if we pull from this high and go down to this low, then yeah, we retrace 50% actually. And hitting our head in that area. So I'll also consider this one a very high probability short situation. You can see we're just a little bit above the 4-hour Kumo here, but the 4-hour Kumo is still beneath the 16-hour Kumo, and our Coppock Curve on the 4-hour is already moving below the 0 line. So far we do not have the daily Coppock Curve crossing over, so that would make this really accelerate if we see, or really make this more pronounced if we see the daily Coppock Curve crossing down, showing bearish divergence, while also the 4-hour Coppock Curve divergence is very bearish within that. So far that has not happened, but you can see how CCI is nearly at a crossover point there. So a couple different pairs to watch for. Hope you have a good day overall trading, and I hope you have a great weekend.